Good evening and welcome to Forge from Iron. This is our weekly show, a Claret review from the Terrace. Um, I'm going to bring in my guests. Obviously, you know who I am, so I need no introduction. Let's bring in my co-host, Mr. Blank Screen himself. Rob, how are you, mate?
I'm not happy. They're casting aspersions on my name already. It's not me that's late, boys.
It was Rob. Yeah, you're right now. No, it was me. It was my fault. We're late. I was tying up a few loose ends in the pub, but here we are. Rob, do you want to bring in our two guests for me? Save me button pressing.
These two.
Another two blank screens. It's literally like I'm going to be talking to myself.
Oh, hang on.
I
think
it.
someone's just arrived. Literally just
now.
Here we go.
At least there's one other handsome face on screen tonight. Good evening, Jazz.
Good evening, everyone.
Steve, Cal, are you both well?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad.
Yeah, keep me well.
Good, thanks.
So, gentlemen, as everyone seems to be passing comments in the chat, obviously Leicester have just beaten United. As we were talking before we came live, it really is down to us. Leicester do have two relatively difficult games left. We've got 3 games. We can still overhaul them and grab 4th place. But if we don't, I want to talk with you guys and the guys in the chat about which out of the 2 competitions that are, shall we say, now more viable to us as for next season. Not saying that Champions League's out the window just yet. I'm just thinking more along the lines of, Europa League and the Europa Conference. I was going to ask you boys what you think would be more beneficial to us next season, and obviously going forward. So for me, I was on a show some point last week, back end of last week, and Fo came into the live chat, and he brought up the fact of the Europa Conference League, that trophy having West Ham United as its inaugural winners, the first name on that trophy being ours, and how that could be something that, would be quite a nice thing to have. And I've got to say, looked into it a little bit more, and I thought about it a little bit more, and the sort of teams that we could end up facing. And you know what? I quite like the idea. I quite like the idea of that Europa Conference having our name first on that trophy. Rob, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it would be quite something to turn around and say you were the first team to win a particular European trophy. So from that point of view, I completely understand what you're saying. However, obviously, it's the lesser of the 3 European tournaments that potentially we could qualify for. All the time that Champions League qualification is still possible, slight though that chance may be, that's the one I would be aiming for. But, being a little bit more looking at the bigger picture, as I say, I go back to the beginning of the season and I'm just like, none of us expected to be in the hunt for European football of any way, shape or form at the beginning of the season. Most of us were thinking we're probably going to be quite fortunate to be staying in the Premier League. And we'd have taken even a mid-table sort of like nothing really happening type finish. So, I'm quite happy that, with whatever we get, but obviously, the competitor in me would always be, I want to be playing at the top competition we can. So all the time Champions League is on the table, I'd be aiming for that.
Yeah, fair enough. Cal, yours?
I would definitely be Europa, but Europa does sort of kill teams for their sort of Premier League season unless they do have the depth for it. If we're going to do Conference League, I'd rather through sort of, I think it goes if you finish third in Europa, you go into it. I'd prefer it that way. I'd rather get a sort of a shot at the Europa and see how we do.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting us to do anything special in Europe. I just want to sort of be nice to see West Ham in the actual sort of proper European competitions and not just the qualifiers for it. So Champions League was always a dream. I don't know if it was always reasonable. We could have got there if we won. Like we have sort of bottled it ourselves. We can't be saying, "Oh, Man United didn't help us out and all." But we probably we would have been screwed over in it anyway. It would have been more a nice sort of experience. I don't think we would have cared if we were losing or winning. It would have been more an experience to get through. And let's hope for it. This year we can still get it. Let's hope for it every year. But Europa, give it a go. I don't think we've the depth for it. They play a lot of games. It's very hard on the teams. And if we end up getting down to the conference through that, feck it, give it a go. But I'll be happy with any form of Europe, really.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's my only. You've touched on it there. That's my only concern with essentially, it does take its toll on the players, and any kind of European competition will. But for some reason, when you look at, the likes of Wolves when they've been in there and stuff like that, they've always struggled. When it's been in the Europa League, they have a really difficult Premier League season, and that's my only concern with what happens next year. Steve, your opinions?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have seen from the Champions League. I think realistically, Leicester are going to have to run over a black cat and walk under a ladder not to get it now. I can't see Chelsea slipping up. What would I prefer? Well, Europa League, I don't think we can win it, if I'm honest. I just think we'd come up against sides that are too good for us. And how far we go in that, I don't know. I think to get to the knockout competition, knockout stage would be a real achievement for us. But the Europa Conference, and bearing in mind it's Nob's last season, I think we could have a really good go at that. And yeah, would I like to see us in the Europa League? Yes, I would. But like Cathal says, I'd rather we were in the Europa League and came third and dropped down to the Europa Conference than get into the Europa League and get knocked out in the first round of the knockouts, if that makes sense. Because I think we'll have a longer run in Europe in the Europa Conference. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, listen, I mean, any European competition that you can have your name to, and there's been a few comments, and I'm going to come back to those momentarily based around some previous games. Jazz, give me your opinions.
Yeah, just wanted to start off by just clarifying the qualifying criteria. So it looks like Europa would have been or is 5th place. That doesn't change. Then the FA Cup winners would have got it. But because Leicester and Chelsea are in the top, 4-5, that means it goes down to 6 then. So is Europa up to 6, I believe. And 7th would have been... 7th is available for this conferencing only because
that's right, yeah.
Because the League Cup has been won by Man City. So the League Cup would have been
correct.
conference. So does that mean only one team from England goes into this conference then? The 7th team?
That's right. Basically, it's one team from your top 5 leagues. So England, France, Italy, Germany, Spain. So only one team will qualify for this new conference. I think the way they want to do it is to give the teams that are that don't qualify for the bigger European competitions a chance of some longer playing time in Europe. So it would probably mean some further afield away days. But I think we, as Steve said, Jazz, Nobes' last season. It'd be nice to have a trophy at the end of it. Would you not agree?
My feelings are quite strong around this. I believe when you're owner of a club or a player or a fan, you got to go for the best. And it's not our problem as the fans that we haven't got a squad big enough or good enough to carry 2-3 competitions. You know, I want us to qualify for Europe, and hopefully we get in there, because I want to put pressure on the owners. We didn't get top 4 because of Sullivan in January. I'm pretty strong about that. I think we big time messed up the window. It was a crying shame that we didn't do anything until the last day again, and somehow Lingard crept over the line. I mean, we could have even lost that deal squabbling over the loan fee, to be honest. So luckily, and he only came because of David Moyes. That's pretty obvious. You know, if David wasn't there, he had plenty of other offers, and he came. And I think as fans, it's a shame that we're thinking it's going to wreck our league. We shouldn't be thinking like that. We should qualify for the highest competition possible, and then you roll the dice and put it in the chairman's desk. And here you go, mate. You know, we're in Europe now. Give the funds, get the players on board. Let's get a strong 23, 24-man squad, and let's go for it like the good old days in every competition. So that's my feelings. And when you get into Europe, in any shape or form, it puts your club on the map in terms of everyone. The youngsters will know who we are. When you sign players in far reaches of the world, they'll know who you are and they want to come to you. And slowly by slowly, the sponsorship money gets better. And I'd love to watch European football in any form at the ground. I would love to watch it. I just want to see what it's like with away fans, with watching these players in real life action. Because we all listen to stories from the night of Eintracht Frankfurt 1976 and all these European Cup Winners' Cup nights, which people have said it's been the best night for them out of all competitions. So I think we should not be thinking the way we are. Let's go for it. And Mr. Sullivan, you've basically wrecked this season as it is, and we're kind of scrambling to get that 7th spot. And I want to put the pressure on him, mate. So I'll definitely want to go for it as a fan. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's something I spoke about with Rob and Andy actually, away from social media and stuff. We were just having a chat, and I did turn around and say, you know, finishing 4th would do us a massive favour in regards to opening up. You know, the eyes of potential suitors towards the club. Champions League would be massive in regards to, you know, someone coming in and taking a look at the club and wanting to buy the club off of, you know, the trio of blood-sucking just parasites that we have at the club. So, you know, for me, don't get me wrong, I would love Champions League. I'd love nothing more than for that music to be playing out around the stadium, and I don't think that we by any means are out of the equation right now for Champions League. At the end of the day, we need to worry, like Cal said it before we came on. We've got to worry about us. We've got to win our games. If we win 3 out of 3, then you know it's what goes our way elsewhere. We shouldn't have to rely on other teams to do us favours. Look at tonight. You know, United did. They put out a slightly younger side, a slightly weakened side, depending on how you want to look at it. And they, you know, they paid the price for it. You know, City. That City won the league now, isn't it? So you know that's now tied up. So now it really is just about these European spots. So that being said, then I can see the comments, and the boys were talking about the Intertoto Cup earlier in the chat, and obviously other nights, Palermo, and someone mentioned about going to, was it Met? Mark said about going to
Metz was the final.
Yeah, you know. Who were the teams who played in the early rounds? I remember. Am I right in thinking there was FC Jokerit in there, wasn't there?
And was the first one that I remember.
They had a striker who wore 99
I think there was 3 games.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember that. I vaguely remember there were 3 matches we played One was against a team called Jokerit, which I think was from Iceland or Finland or somewhere like
Iceland
that.
or
Finland, I
yeah.
think. Finland, I think.
Yeah, it was the sort of Scandinavian country. And as I always remember, the final Mets, I was there for the first leg at Upton Park. We lost it 1-0. I didn't go to the second leg, and we went and won that 3-1 to go through. But I can't for the life of me think. I'll Google it. I'll Google it, or Kent will
Because
come
that's
back and
what
he'll
this.
tell me. Here we go.
That's
Yeah,
what
that was
this
it.
is.
Yeah, Heron Vane.
Oh, Heron Vane,
Heron
yeah.
Vane.
Bloody hell. It's
I
a
knew
long
Kent
time
would
ago
probably
now,
get it.
though, isn't it? It's a long time ago.
Yeah, I went to
you
all
know,
3 home games.
We had that little run out where we, Astra Gugu and the rest of them. I mean, guys in the chat. I've seen someone mention something earlier. So to be fair, if you've got anything you want us to talk about, if you've got any comments you want to bring up, minus a couple of certain things we're not talking about this evening, please stick some comments in the chat. Let's get this working and let's get this going. What was that I just saw about Ollie McBurney, Gatesy? Could you find that for me?
I've already had a look. Basically, he's had a little bit of a kick-off with a member of the public, and he's got into a fight, basically, and it's been caught on camera.
Yeah, it was all videoed. It was underage as well. I'm pretty sure he was a young lad.
At least it wasn't like those lads, the Sunderland players, about 10 or 15 years ago in the hotel room. I don't know if you saw that one. That was a bit I would say that was worse.
Was that involving Gibson, Gatesy, or was that something else?
I think so.
Okay.
Liam Lawrence, I think, was involved as well.
Okay.
So going back to Europa and the conference, obviously, just I'm not, like I say, I'm not ruling out Champions League. I'm not, but realistically, right now where we stand, Europa League or conference is more on the table, shall we say, than the other one. So, as Peaches just said there, the Europa League is bad luck for us. It wasn't the greatest of adventures the last time we had some sort of European adventure. It didn't go too well for us. Do you think with things like with the Europa Conference again, touching on something that Hamish Chat mentioned when I watched that? He was Gio was talking about how it'd be a good place for some of the youngsters, the likes of Coventry and such like Odebeko and Afalay, and if he comes back and doesn't stay at Bolton, there's the opportunity to blood some of these guys in some of the games. Gatesy, your thoughts on obviously Europa League being a good place to blood some of the youngsters?
Well, yes, I agree it would, but possibly only in the sort of like the earlier stages against the lesser teams. I'm not being funny. I wouldn't advocate doing that if we was to go in against a team like, I don't know, Torino or something like that. Because, I think if we were to put out Connor Coventry, Mipo or Odebeko with the best will in the world against a sort of like a decent Italian, Spanish team, German team, something like that, we know how that's going to end. And I can only speak for myself, but I think I know the West Ham fan base at large quite well enough to know that if we put out a team of kids and reserves against a decent, say a Borussia Mönchengladbach or someone like that, they'd be up in arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I don't disagree with that, but like you say, I was thinking more along the lines of, the earlier rounds. Like I say,
Even then, I think you're playing with fire a little bit. I mean, again, you mentioned them earlier, Astra Gugu. Well, we put out not our first strength team, but we put a couple of sort of like fringe players.
Our 23s team just survived relegation by a point or something as well.
I'm not saying
are they in the second division or are they first division of? I think they might have been in the second division of like that age groups sort of leagues, and they're only after finishing like that. They had a good rally at the end, but it's certainly not like the team that Harry would have had to choose from an FA Youth Cup winning and Youth Premier League sort of winning team. It's these lads aren't that good. There might be a few good individuals in it, but you wouldn't want to rely on them. That's for sure.
Steve?
I tend to agree with Gatesy, actually. That, yeah, it'd be great to play the youngsters, but if we're in it, we're going to want to win it. It's that simple, you know. And if we get knocked out because we've played 2 or 3 youngsters, people are going to be furious because it is European football, after all. I mean, I'm old enough to remember our run. I was 11 to the Cup Winners, 10 or 11 to the Cup Winners' Cup final. And, you know, it was in those days when I was too young to stay up to watch Sports Night to watch the game. So I remember being hunkered down in my bed with my radio, listening to it, and trying not to shout too loud when we scored in case my mum heard me and she realised I was still awake. You know, but it was fantastic. That run, you know, that was one of the defining things of my childhood, listening to West Ham get to that final. Now, okay, we lost in the final, but nevertheless, the whole run was brilliant. And I wouldn't want to deprive other people from that feeling, because let's face it, the Cup Winners' Cup was a bit Mickey Mouse in some ways, and that's why they got rid of it. But, you know, just the excitement of listening to us playing away from home. You know, we had to have that game behind closed doors because of fan disruption, and we had to come back. Yeah, 4-2 deficit, I believe.
Yeah.
We had to come back because we were 4-0 down at one point in the away leg, and listening to that and thinking, come on, you know, it's brilliant. So would I play the youngsters? John Lyle didn't in those games, and I'm not so sure. I can see why people think it's a good idea, but if you play the youngsters and lose, you're missing out. You really are missing out on something. A run to the quarters or the semi-final, and that's electric, I have to say.
And Jazz, your thoughts on team selection, if you will, for the Europa or conference or Europa League?
Yeah, I like to respect the competition, to be fair, and we've never in the past been quite good enough to play youngsters and expect to win. So I wouldn't want to do that unless I'm fairly comfortable. You can see how bench, we ain't got anyone. 2-3 goalkeepers have been on the bench throughout the season, that kind of thing. So I wouldn't want to put them in just for the sake of it, you know. And also, I think our fans, we do like homegrown players, but I feel sometimes in the past our fans have bigged up some of our homegrown players for no reason, and when they haven't quite warranted it, really. So I think we've got to be a little bit careful and just trust the manager. If they're not in the team, they're not in the team for a reason, you know. I trust his judgment. I mean, he's bought 2-3 players in, you know, in the main team who've done well. They've got rid of one, Dean Garner, proving to be sort of right at the moment. Obviously, the chap at Watford, that was a pretty funny, sort of odd story. You know, he's not really got into the Watford team. But yeah, I would like to respect the competition, and I would not want to bring them in until I'm fairly confident they could do a good job. I mean, certainly they can come off the bench, or perhaps play and come on maybe after 70 minutes, 60 minutes if we're doing fairly well, I think. But I wouldn't want to take, you know, you spend all it takes all year to get into the competition and come the first round. You don't want to go out, you know, just because you've changed the team for 1 or 2 reasons, I think. No, I'd want to only bring them in if there's a real good sort of potential there that you've seen somewhere on loan or in a training pitch or something like that. I mean, the chap up front we played against, was it Villa or Man United? Such a poor half that the sub got subbed, didn't he, by David Moyes? I mean, those are the reasons I don't want to sort of see these players in just because they're homegrown. They've got to warrant a start for me. Yeah.
Fair enough. There's a question or a comment from Alex in the chat there. And Gatesy, I'm going to come to you first on this one. From what I understand, the conference is being likened as to a level as being the Intertoto Cup. So that being said, then, do you reckon it will be considered as a major European trophy, or is it going to just be seen as a tin pot? And that's not just by the big boys, fans included in that, Gatesy. What do you reckon?
Well, it's obviously the lesser of the three tournaments, and don't forget this is going to be the first season, so time will tell how it gets seen, sort of like in years to come. And don't forget, I mean, the Intertoto Cup, when we competed in it, I believe that was actually its second incarnation. I think that there'd actually been an attempt by UEFA in previous years to have a previous version of the Intertoto Cup, which sort of like crashed and burned, and then they rebooted it, which was when we came in '99, and then that sort of like died a death. So it remains to be seen how successful this tournament is, because obviously if you've got sort of like the sort of like third tier league teams, if you will, you know, in terms of European sort of qualification, and even if they're not taking it seriously, I mean, as you said earlier about us putting out kids and reserves and all the rest of it, well, then it's just going to devalue the competition, and it's going to be a complete joke before it even starts.
Yeah, again, like I say, from what I gather, from my understanding and from some of the comments I've read online, like I say, it's being linked up there with the Intertoto. Cal, your thoughts?
Yeah, like I don't even really remember the Intertoto. I just really heard of it. So sure, yeah, bloody, it is what you make of it. So if, as Gatesy said, if people aren't putting out sort of quality in it, it's going to look crap. But sure, any trophy's better than the Betway Cup. So take anyone you can get.
Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be quite happy to win it because then we'd have more silverware than Spurs. That'd do for me. So, you know, and particularly when your brother-in-law's a Spurs fan, you know, I'm still dining out on the 3-3. So, yeah, more silverware than Spurs. That's all I care about, really.
Yes.
I'm going to regret asking this, but Jazz, let us know.
No, yeah, I'd love to win it. I just wanted to know, does anyone know that if you do win this conference thing, what the prize is? I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say you get into the Champions League, but I just wanted to know, is there any benefits?
I think it is.
If you win the Conference League, you get into the Europa League.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You get into the Europa group stages. Oh, I think the Europa has grown on everyone. I think it's getting more and more important every year. Certainly at the beginning, it was far too many games to follow. It seemed like 2 group stages, and it took like 60 games to bloody win the thing. But I think it's certainly the quality. If you look in there, people like Lazio, Dynamo Kiev, really, really Milan, AC Milan, you know, really good teams in it. Man United, obviously, in Chelsea now, and people, not Chelsea, sorry, but certainly in previous years, you've certainly got good teams in there. And I certainly keep an eye on it now and again, sort of see what's happening. And I love football. I follow football globally, so I recognise all the teams that are in there from all over Europe. Some of them, obviously, like Steve might know, big names from the bygone age. Some of them you might recognise that we've played even back in the 76, 81. You know, some of those names are still in there. Eintracht Frankfurt and teams like that. So, no, I love it and I want to be part of it. It's been too long. Well, never in my bloody life anyway. I mean, okay, those 1 or 2 games we just mentioned, I mean, we want to take those seriously, but I really want to get to the latter stages and get those magical nights at Upton Park back, really, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gatesy, you just put up the first one, the one before this, the comment from Claret Newham about that's the one. Boys, I want your thoughts on this before I knock the European talk on the head. He's turned around and said there should only be 2 European competitions, and I'm so inclined to agree with this. The Champions League should be the Champions League. It should be the league champions from every league in Europe. I don't see why a team finishing 3rd in the Premier League or in the Bundesliga, however you want to look at it, has the opportunity of competing for that Champions League trophy. And then obviously the Cup Winners' Cup, as it used to be, very, very much the old way of looking at it. But that was when those competitions, I think, meant more, and it wasn't about the money. You know, I think that's, for me, I would prefer to see it set out like that. Cal, your thoughts on that with regards to the the setup of the Champions League and the Europa League?
It doesn't make financial sense for them anymore. It's one of those. It's a bygone day sort of thing. There wouldn't be a lot of games to play. It might more have sort of some validity to it as it's an actual Champions League, but then they don't have 4 teams from every country or 3 teams from every country going in, and there's less matches, less financial gain from it. The more competitions, the revenue they get. So I think that's just the way football's gone. It's I don't know how long ago it was. How long ago was it like that it was just champions, or was it ever even like that? Because it was probably a long
number of years ago.
Time ago. Yeah,
a number of years ago.
I've never seen it like that. So I don't think it would. I don't think it would happen. It would sort of have to be its own breakaway group, but I don't think that's happening either.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that poxy thing. I mean, as Wayne's just said there at the bottom of the chat, it is all about money now, Rob. What are your thoughts on the old school kind of Champions League and how it used to be?
Oh, that was a Champions League, really. I know it wasn't a league format, but it was a Champions Cup. Whereas the Champions League, you don't have to be champions of your nation to win the Champions League, which is a bit.
You don't even have to be runners up.
No, exactly. I mean, you could finish fourth, and but it is about the money. I mean, this is the big group of clubs way back, all jumping up and down. It got extended from just the winners to winners and runners up, then winners, runners up, and third, then down to fourth. And it wouldn't shock me if maybe in a year or two, with all of the stuff going on about European Super Leagues and all the rest of it, that UEFA concede more ground and it goes down to fifth. It really wouldn't shock me. But exactly as Wayne says, it's about money. That's all it is. No ifs, no buts.
Yeah, Jazz?
Yeah, I used to love the old format. The only thing with the European Cup, which I don't know if Steve might know, is was it seeded? Because why else would teams like Malmo and other teams just enter the final that you wouldn't expect? So I don't know if some of the good teams ended up knocking each other out too early, but some of the finalists, you're like, wow, who the hell are they? I mean, not even around in any other cups. So it used to be good. UEFA Cup was very strong. Cup Winners' Cup still quite prestigious, I think. I mean, obviously we were in a couple of finals, so obviously got to move with the times. The only thing now looking at it is, so apparently 32 teams entered the Champions League, 32 enter Europa, and I think in this conference there's going to be about 38, I think. Either 38 or maybe 32 again. I just got to clarify that. So that's why I was thinking, I just kept seeing to me that there's more games in Europa compared to Champions League, but it's the same teams. So I've got to have to look at the formats. I mean, are the formats slightly different? I'm going to have to look at that. So to win the Europa, do you have to win more games than Champions League? I'm not sure, really. But I think, like we talked about the Super League, if they're going to sort of steal the Champions League every single year and someone like us tries to get in there and we find it difficult, I think we've got our clubs like us, we've got to create our own super competition and get the fans interested in that, I think. Simple as that, mate. If we can't get in there, let's just try to big up the Europa and the other one, I think. So every fan gets a chance to play teams from different countries and again, like, get a chance to win a trophy, I think. So yeah, I think it's okay. I think 3 competitions, I think we can just about handle it, I think. So it should be fine. Yeah, I'm okay with it, I think. Just because it just gives different teams, different chance, I think, to win something.
Of European success.
Yeah. I'm fine with it, mate. Yeah.
Steve, I'm going to bring you the comment, another comment from Claret about making it the fact that you could qualify for Europe via one of the domestic cups would actually make them more meaningful and more competitive again. Obviously, at the moment, is it the League Cup? You get into the Conference League, and then the FA Cup is the Europa League. Do you think that, like you say, we mentioned earlier, for one of the big boys, winning the League Cup, would that be something that they'd be interested in over the Europa Conference? they're still only going to put out a weakened side, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, I think so. The whole they've tried to make the cups more valuable by giving them European place, but it's still the same teams who win it all the time. City have got a monopoly on the League Cup at the moment. When was the last time one of the big four or big six, in inverted commas, didn't win the FA Cup? I mean, I genuinely can't remember. Was it West Brom when they went down or something? They beat City 1-0. Was that?
I think that was Wigan, wasn't it?
That was Wigan. Yeah, I knew it'd be going with the W. But realistically, you're saying, right, we'll make the cups more important. We'll put European places on them. Well, all that happens is that those clubs qualify for 2 European competitions, can't go into both, so it gets moved down the league. I would love to go back to the days where you had the mighty Leeds beaten by Sunderland, Bobby Stokoe's Sunderland side, 1-0 against all the odds. Or Southampton beating United in the FA Cup final. But sadly, I think those days are gone, because when you get a team like City, who's actually backed effectively by a whole country, you can't compete with it. We're backed by 2 people who made their money in port. City are backed by a whole oil-based country. It's not going to make any difference at all, because the big clubs will continue to win it. Not because necessarily they think it's great, but just say, "Oh, I've got another trophy in the cabinet," and that's what you're up against, in my opinion.
Yeah, listen. I want nothing more as a West Ham fan to pick up, a trophy. I mean, I was 18 months old when when we won the FA Cup. Back in 16, we got to the cup final. It was 16, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was. We got to the FA Cup final. So I've not really had a great deal of cup celebration in my lifetime. So I would listen. If it meant West Ham won the League Cup, I'll be all over it.
We've won the Betway Cup.
Gatesy.
I don't think we have.
We're the only team to qualify.
Have we?
So
we've won it a couple of times.
The Betway Cup is our own version of leave off, Simon. The Betway Cup is our version of the Super League. We qualify for it every year. 06, sorry, Kent, thank you. 06. I know I had a 6 in it. So right, I'm gonna skip off of Europe. I've had enough of Europe. I want to talk about Team of the Year.
One more thing. So on the conference, the good thing is that obviously being from sort of England, one of the top seeded countries, we don't have to mess about to enter any of the qualifying. So early pre-season, we'd enter straight at the group stage. Yeah. The main path stage, sorry, they call it main playoff. Sorry, playoff round. It's called, I think. So before then, there's 3 qualifying rounds before we get involved. So that's kind of sounds a bit better, I think. Yeah.
So I want to have a quick chat now about Team of the Years, which I know Gatesy has been so polite to get downloaded and get me some overlays. So Gatesy, chuck them up, and we will.
Which one do you want first, Mr. Neville or Mr. Carragher?
I'm not sure which one I like and which one I find. I'm not sure if there's one that I prefer over the other one or one that I find less irritating than the other one. I'll let you pick, Squire.
There you go. That's Gary Neville's.
I cannot. Someone mentioned it earlier in the chat, and I'm not going to go as far back as near enough the very start. But these guys are aware that there are more teams than just these guys in Manchester, right?
Rashford, that's a joke. Rashford, oh my God, that is.
Go on then, Jazz. We'll start with you, Jazz. Go on. talk to me. What are your thoughts on that? On Gary Neville's team of the year?
I'll just
Team of the
go
season.
for it. Rashford has had he's had a really poor season for me. He won't be part of the England squad, put it that way, I don't think. Foden. Be interesting to see how many games. I mean, I know since Christmas he's done okay. De Bruyne has been injured for most of the season. Bruno, fair enough. Maguire, not for me. Mendy. Walker's been in and out of the City team, so it looks like 3-4. So I don't agree with Rashford. De Bruyne's more on kind of his attainment in previous seasons, I think, rather than... So that's the wrong entry, isn't it? He's not been one of the best players this season purely because of injury. So I think De Bruyne, Foden, Rashford, Walker, Maguire, not for me. Diaz, no problem. Mendy, got no issue with that. Shaw, he's been impressive. So Shaw, Mendy, Fernandes, Gundogan, Diaz, Kane, I'm kind of okay with, I think. So half the team I'm okay with, half of them I'm not. Yeah.
Cal, your thoughts?
Well, it's that goalkeeper there who plays for a London team didn't even win London goalkeeper of the year. So you'd wonder why he's in the team of the season. I think he's very solid, but I think there's been bloody Emi Martinez from Villa's been best keeper in the league this year. I think he has to be sort of in it. Walker's been in and out, as Jazz said. He's been injured a bit, and then Cancelo plays a lot of the time as well. Maguire is one of those, same as Fernandes. His stats look great. I seen them there somewhere on Twitter. He's very high up in the stats in the league, and he looks good, and he's becoming better. I think it's the price tag that people look down on Harry Maguire for. He's not worth that, but he is a very competent defender at times. He can make a balls of it, but what player can't? Ruben Diaz, probably player of the year at this stage. He's been that good. Luke Shaw, another one. He's been sort of a shoe in for that because he's been so good for them. Fernandes he's still good, but he wasn't there for a lot of the time. He turns off in a lot of games, and he's not there. But he gets the stats up, and he makes Man United play better as a team. Gundogan should be in it. De Bruyne injured too much, but when he plays, he's important. He just hasn't got a lot of sort of goal contributions compared to normal. Foden's one of those half a season wonders, and he's probably going to be one of the best players in the world, but I don't think he's in the team of the season for it. Kane's understandable. He's probably behind Ruben Diaz been the best player. It's just he doesn't have the team to back him up, and I don't understand how Marcus Rashford's in there at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, you said there about Foden. He's going to be an absolute. He's like you say, he's going to be one of the greatest players in his position. I think in a few years' time, I think he's an absolute talent. I love watching him play. He plays. He still plays like he's one of those kids down the park. You know, it's all so easy for him. It's all so natural, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it actually takes him. To be fair, Steve, your opinions on that team?
Well, I'm just going to pick on two I really disagree with. Walker at right back. And Maguire. Now, if I had to pick a team, I wouldn't have Maguire in over Bonner, and I wouldn't have Walker in over Kufel or Sufel. I think Bonner at his best is just a better defender than Maguire, and Sufel over Walker. I just don't think there's competition, really. Sufel is a tremendous right back, and in my opinion, he's right up there with the best in the league, if not the best in the league. So that's where I am. I'm just going to pick on those two because I really object to those two being in there.
Just before I get Jazz's opinions, Scott, we will give you our opinions shortly. Bear with us. Jazz, your opinions on... Oh, we've already had your opinion on that. Right, Gatesy, your opinion, sorry.
Pretty much same as the other guys. Pretty much same as the other guys. I'm looking at Kyle Walker, And I'm like, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but right back of the season, no chance. No chance. Maguire, in my opinion, no. Gundogan, for me, not ahead of Declan Rice. Sorry, just no chance. Good player. I'm not saying he's crap, but for me, if it was a straight shootout between Gundogan and Declan Rice, all day long and twice on a Sunday, Declan Rice wins that battle for me. And Marcus Rashford, I mean, Simon made the comment earlier. I'll just get it back up on screen. If that's anything to do with it, that is completely ridiculous. But it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm not saying that Simon's comment is ridiculous. I thought that. I got to be honest. But if that is the reason why Gary Neville was putting him in his team of the season, that is an absolute joke. Don't get me wrong. What he did, the meal vouchers and all the rest of it, very, very laudable. And for a young man to get off of his backside and do that when he didn't have to, absolutely fantastic. But, that doesn't mean that he should get into a team of the year if that is the reason. His performances have been okay. Again, nothing brilliant, but nothing crap. It's somewhere in between. But to have him in the team of the year, not a chance. I mean, Fernandes, yeah, fair enough. Foden, see, when I see him, I know he's probably not played that much, but when I've seen him, I've been mightily impressed. So with him, it's probably more quality over than quantity. Luke Shaw, Ruben Diaz, yeah, fine, no problem. Mendy, he's come in to replace one of the most expensive goalkeepers in the world, and he's actually looked quite impressive when I've seen him play, so I probably don't have so much of a problem with that. But for me, yeah, right back, I would definitely be putting Soufal. I've not seen a better right fullback this season, bar none. The geezer's just made of iron. He is, and Declan Rice would be in ahead of Gundogan. I'm not too sure who I would have instead of Rashford. I'd probably have to sort of,
Son,
stick
Son in there,
probably
mate.
Son,
Yeah.
and it really pains me to say it, but I'd probably say Son would probably be getting in for Rashford ahead of him, in my opinion.
I'd stick Grealish in there instead of De Bruyne as well.
Grealish is another one, but I mean, he's missed the last 12 games or so with injury, so
I didn't think you care too much about who's played for. It's sort of if Foden's in there and if Walker and De Bruyne are in there, they shouldn't really care too much about that.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to say, Gates, you said about Gundogan in there, and you're saying that he had a really good middle part of the season. For me, Rice walks in front of De Bruyne in there. To be honest with you, I can't think of a great deal that De Bruyne has done over the course of this season that would have him in there. I mean, like I say, Gundogan in the middle part of the season had an absolute banging 3 or 4 months. In the middle of the season, he was very, very good. And like I say, De Bruyne has set himself such high standards for the last few years that he's had that this season seems like an absolute damn squid for him. So for me, he wouldn't make it. I look at the others, Mendy. Cal mentioned earlier, didn't even win London goalkeeper of the season. I'm not saying he's been better than. Fabianski's been better, but obviously that's one award that's already been given out, and Fabianski's won that. Walker, no, for me it's got to be Soufal. Maguire, I'm always hit and miss with this fella. I don't understand the love affair.
I'd probably have John Stones ahead of him.
Yeah. But again, it's another teammate. It's another player out of a Manchester teammate. I'm sure there's other teams in the Premier League. And I mean, again, I look at that front line, and Rashford hasn't done a great deal across the course of this season for me. The way that Son and Kane have linked up, and they went on that run where they were assisting each other for goals in games at the start of the season. I thought them two were brilliant in the early part. And again, agreeing with what Cal said about Foden, I don't see what he's done consistently this season to have earned a place in their side. So I don't. That's a hard one for me. I think the formation doesn't do Souček and Rice any favours, because those three players there are all of those in that midfield three are attacking players. There's not one single defensive player in that in that midfield three, there's not one single defender or defensive-minded player. So that kind of rules out your likes of Suchek, and it rules out your likes of Rice. Gatesy, have you got?
I don't know. I think you could play a three in midfield, but you'd have Rice just sitting a little bit deeper than De Bruyne and Fernandes either side of him. For me,
Yeah, no, but I think I think Sky have done that in such a way with that kind of, for me, with that kind of formation, and especially on that graphic. They're more advanced as three midfielders. It just feels to me like they've done that in a way that encourages the inclusion of three attacking midfielders than it does any kind of defensive minded midfielders.
looks like a team put together by Kevin Keegan in the mid-90s.
Actually, before we go on to Kara's team, I want to talk about Scott. So we'll all jump in on this just to all have a quick saber before we bring up Kara's. Gatesy, your opinions on Scott's team of the year there? When you're off mute.
Martinez. Yeah. Martinez. Yeah, he's been the goalkeeper of the season for me. He's been an absolute. What was it? 18 million he went there for, and he had a really good end of last season. He was in the Arsenal team that picked up the FA Cup. He was getting all sorts of plaudits, and he was shown the door. Soufal, yep, no problem. Fofana, no problem. Tarkowski, not so sure about that, Scott, with all due respect. Cancelo, yep, fine, no problem. Mahrez, yeah. De Bruyne, not so sure. Mount, yes, I'd definitely go Mount. Son, yes. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, yes. Kane, yes.
Guys, what
Um,
about that team down in front of you?
yeah, Tarkowski, no. Oh, bloody hell. See, a lot of these players are half seasons, unlike Suchek, Rice, and I mean Grealish. Yeah, he's missed a few, but yeah, I mean, if you look at Mount, I think he's certainly a lot better this half of the new year than before. Son definitely fine. Kane good. Instead of Declan doing where's the team gone? Hang on. Oh yeah, Son. Yeah, I'm okay with up front. It's just Tarkowski, I think. And Mahrez is, he's coming to his own last 3-4 months, I think. De Bruyne, not for me, De Bruyne, not this season. I think he's been injured for quite a season. So, again, it's just a few players that haven't played that many games, I think. And then, obviously, we're promoting players from outside the Super League, aren't we? Obviously. So it's nice to see sort of Fofana in there. And sort of Lewin, and obviously we're promoting Kufal, Rice, Suchek, Grealish, and people like that. So I think
he was linked with us, wasn't he, Jazz? Fofana?
Yeah. So again, we couldn't agree terms with the French team, and Leicester obviously had more cash up front than us. So yeah, we kind of lost him and Eze, and I don't think we ever had the money for Watkins, so I don't want to say we were ever in.
I think he'd only played 20 or 30 professional games before going, though. That's another reason. Like, it was sort of you don't know if it was worth the punt. It showed how it was, but it's one of those.
I think it's I mean, it's a bit like I don't know how many games Duke played before we bought him. So sometimes you just have to take
he was calculated. Captain. He just played a bit.
Yeah, you just have to take a calculated risk. I mean, by all means, when his name was mentioned, everyone was just going mad over him, even before he signed for Leicester, that he's one of, amazing talents. What a great, but like you said, maybe just a great one season, I think, on the back of that. But yeah, it's like you said, Duke, we're arguing about 4 players we don't agree with, I think, everyone. And then we'll replace the Super League with players outside. I think that's generally what we're all agreeing on, I think, at the moment, yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm the only one for me, and that is Tarkowski, really. The rest look good to me. I mean, if it's going to be the team of the season, you need to be able to look at it and think that team could win the league. Now, I didn't think Gary Neville's team would. This team, I think, would have more of a chance. So, yeah, I wouldn't have Tarkowski in there particularly, but the rest, yeah, I'll go with.
And Cal?
Yeah, it's a solid team. Tarkowski, I don't agree with, as sort of majority of us have said. It's a lot of those. Mahrez has had a class season, but it didn't sort of hit form until maybe after the January transfer window, and he's been one of the best players in the world since then. De Bruyne is always a great player. It's just he's getting shoehorned in there because of, like, as we all know how good he can be. And he is probably still better than most midfielders in the league on his day. It's just he's been injured a lot and hasn't been playing as much. Mason Mount, I think, is one of the best. It's hard to know what even Mason Mount is because they compare him to the likes of Grealish and Foden, them sort of attacking mids, when he's not. He's not as full on box to box, but he's sort of an eight. He is a centre mid. He's not an attacking mid. He's not a winger. And he's one of the best in the league at it. I think he's class, and he's young, and he's a huge future ahead of him. And then Son, it's hard to disagree with. He's sort of quieting down a bit on the goals, but he's still been playing well. Calvert-Lewin, yeah, he's been good. He went quiet for a while, but he scored enough goals to probably get into it stats wise. And then Kane's been class as well. But I don't see how Ruben Diaz is in the team. He's been probably the best player in the league overall.
So obviously, Ken's coming. Obviously, we're all here having a conversation over Tarkowski. He's gone Lewis Dunk. He'd have Dunk in there over Tarky. I mean, that's not a bad shout. I quite like Lewis Dunk. And to be honest with you, I'd test the waters with Brighton next season and see if he'd be available at a certain price. I really do like him. I think he's a cracking player.
I think Leicester came in for him 2 years ago with 50-60 million pound bid.
Perhaps, yeah, listen, they ain't getting that for him, are they?
No, they said no. Yeah. So he's
turning 30, which I know isn't that old. You still get 3 or 4 years out of him, but I don't think he fits the Moyes system. He spent his whole career at Brighton. He's from Brighton. He might just want to sort of have a Mark Noble sort of thing with them.
Maybe.
Yeah. But isn't it quite surprising when you've got players like Dunk and you've got players like Tarkowski? They've never asked for a transfer or ever said anything. And I'm like, why do we always end up with the players on our side that do the opposite?
I think Tarkowski has. It's just he doesn't want to go down south. So I think it might be his wife or something. But Dunk could just be a very loyal player. Dunk was a youth player for Brighton. He's played his whole career there, and he's from there. Like, he could just be a big fan, and he wants to sort of stick it out and have that sort of that honor.
Yeah, like you say, very much like Nobes. Yeah. Gatesy, the Tiz, legend. Gatesy, chuck us up Kara's team. Then let's have that, and then I've got one more thing I want to have a quick touch on before we
shall be given.
Before we call it quits. See, now this team, there's a couple in here that I don't necessarily agree with. But I'm gonna pass this over to you, Gatesy, first.
Do you know what? I think this is probably closer to what I would have picked than the first one, if I'm being honest. I think Martinez, Soufal, Stones, Diaz, and Shaw, I think is a lot closer to the back line that I would consider having as my team of the season. De Bruyne, Fernandes, Kante. Again, I've got to put Rice in there.
Language, Gatesy.
Kante. That's his name. I can't help it.
It's 1 minute past 9 anyway. You're grand.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Nigerian fella that used to play for Arsenal, and no one would say his first name. Kanu. Anybody know what his first name actually was?
Yeah, I still won't try that now.
Yeah, it's Nwankwo, wasn't it?
It was.
That was his first name. No one would ever call him it. Strange. But that's his name. What can you do?
I didn't even know he had a first name. He was always just Kanu to me.
Yeah. But yeah, De Bruyne, Kante, and Fernandes, I've got to have Rice in there ahead of Kante. I'm not saying that Kante isn't a fantastic player, 2-time Premier League winner, World Cup winner, European Championship runner-up. So he's got a fantastic pedigree, but for me, Rice gets in there ahead of him. And then the front line, Foden, Kane, and Son. Yeah, it's probably as close as I. Yeah, Foden. I'm like, again, he's probably when I've seen him play, I'm like, wow, what a player. But I guess when you're at a team like City, you've got such a wealth of talent there. You've got Mahrez, you've got Sterling, you've got various other players that you can sort of like swap in and out. Even Jesus can sort of like go wide, whatever. Yeah, that's probably as close. That is probably closer to my team of the season than Gary Neville. So, yeah, Jamie Carragher, one out of those two, is the better one in my opinion.
Cal?
Yeah, I agree. Jamie Carragher seems to have a better team, and he's a better sign of the season as well, as he put Souček in as sign of the season. And Kante, I don't think he's in the team this season, but in the last sort of 2 or 3 months, he's probably been the best midfielder in the world. He's been that good the last while. He's sort of back on form. When Frank was with them, he wasn't even playing all the time, and he wasn't playing as good. But that team there, they're all smashing teams, but that team sort of even looks well balanced. It looks like a well made team, and yeah, as we've already talked about the other sort of players, I'd agree with that team much more.
Dave?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at Gary Neville's, I just thought it was a lazy selection. He just went for the big teams and the big names. There's not a lot in that side I'd change either. Kante against Rice, I think that's a very tight call, actually, because I think they're both brilliant. You could have either or in there. Kufau at right back, delighted to see him there. Thoroughly deserved. And on the Foden thing, people say he looks good. I mean, I remember watching Gaza at the 1990 World Cup, Italian 90, and thinking, wow, what a player, what a first touch. And I actually think Foden's got a better first touch than Gaza. I think the lad's going to be amazing.
That is
and
high praise.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Gaza was unbelievable, but Foden, his first touch.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, I would put him in my team of the season because I just think when I've seen him play, I think he's been brilliant. By far and away the best player we've got in the England squad, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, I'd still, for me, I'd take De Bruyne out of there and I'd put in Rice. That'd probably be my change for that one. Jazz?
I'd take Kante out for Rice, and I'd take out De Bruyne for Grealish. Foden, I'm fine with. I just wanted to mention how impressed I've been with Ollie Watkins this season. I think for your first season, not missed even a minute of any game and held it up front by himself and just grown into that role and even physically put a bit of muscle on and rarely has a game below 7 out of 10. So I just wanted to say, I think it's been brilliant, mate. What a great signing for them, I think. And he's virtually in the England squad and he's banged in a goal for England as well. So, yeah, I think he'll hopefully make the squad, I think, and provide cover for Harry Kane, perhaps. So just the 2 changes for me, and really impressed with Ollie Watkins as well, yeah.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I agree with everything you've said about this side here, guys. For me, it's a lot, like you say, it's a lot more balanced side. I think that out of the 2 teams, that's the team that's getting you. That's the team that's winning the league. Out of the 2 there, I think, like you say, a bit more balanced. I'd still replace De Bruyne for Rice, and him and Kante as your 2 holding midfielders. Fernandes further forward with the other 3. It's got dangerous written all over it.
Does anyone want to add Benrahma to the team?
His name is banned in this show.
James, hello,
Stop
James.
Stop it. His name is banned in this show. So I'm going to move on from the team of the year then, on news that was brought to my attention slightly earlier by Cal. Cal, do you want to bring this to everyone's attention, and we'll get talking on this, and I'll throw my addition into it after you've said about it.
Yeah, I just seen it earlier. I don't know if it had broke before. I know the sort of appeal and all had been happening for a while, but I know it's not really West Ham. It's about Derby's sort of situation right now. I'd be a bit of a Derby fan myself. I've always watched them. They're a sort of they'd be a team that we'd support, we'd like in the family, and also they've been in trouble for financial fair play. I know Sheffield got their points deduction for stuff with the sale of the stadium, and
Oh yeah.
I think it's Mel Morris who owns Derby was involved with sort of sales with the stadium problems, and also stuff with paying players over their contracts. And the talk is there was talk that they could get points deduction this season, which would relegate them, or else they'll start next season with a points deduction. I just think sort of after what we've gone through with everything, sort of over the whole Super League situation, to go a few weeks later and it's back down to the sort of grass. I know it's not really grassroots football, but lower divisions, and they're not too afraid to sanction them. I think it's sort of one of those that you see both sides of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, this from what I was quickly reading, and it's this one that Gatesy has thrown up. I've read through it quickly, and it just seems that, as you said there, they're not frightened to throw around points deductions. And bear in mind, this the EFL brought two charges, didn't they, against Derby? Was it back in August? The first relating to the sale of the stadium to owner Mel Morris, and the second regarding the way the club amortises a player's value over the course of his contract. Now, the first one has been dismissed, and the EFL decided to appeal against the second, and they've won. So, for me, the fact that they've taken it to appeal, it feels to me like the Football League have gone after Derby. Surely an appeal comes from a club that feels like they've been wronged, not the league. So for me, it feels like the EFL were going after Derby, fouled, and are now going after Derby again for whatever reason and for however they're working it. But my point on this, and the reason I wanted to bring this up was, as you've turned around and said there, Cal, they're quite willing to throw around these point deductions to these clubs that are trying to get some sort of financial leg up, if you will, which is what they're accusing Derby of, or had accused Derby of. Yet here we are with 6 clubs in the Premier League that at the moment, it seems like they've got off scot-free. Am I the only one that sees it like this? Gatesy, am I seeing this? Am I seeing this slightly skewed, or have I got a point with this?
You raise a valid point, but here's the problem, Duke. Derby County are not Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Chelsea. And that's the problem. They're not one of the heavy hitters. I mean, we discussed it before. If, for argument's sake, those 6 clubs did up and leave the Premier League, now the Premier League becomes a much less commercially appealing asset. And I heard it mentioned on a radio station that it was the opinion of those in the know, in the sort of like the media world, when the Premier, if those 6 teams were to clear off, the commercial rights, television rights at the next set of negotiations would be maybe a third, a half of what the current value were. You stop and consider that, and it's like, there's the reason why the Premier League are probably going to give this lot a slap on the wrists. Whereas Derby County, well, in the grand scheme of things, the only people that care about Derby County are Derby County fans. The Premier League don't care about them because they're not a Premier League club. The EFL probably don't care about them too much because they're one of 72 clubs that they're looking after. So, as far as that's concerned, who cares? But as the Premier League, like I say, they'll just get, these 6 will just get a slap on the wrist, and they'll be put on a naughty step and told not to do it again. And whether we like it or not, that's the way it's going to that's the way it's going to happen.
From what I understand on this, though, Rob, they're not sure when the point deduction, if a points deduction comes, whether they start next season with the points deduction in the championship, or whether they
there's a
actually
precedent. There's a precedent
it?
here, Duke. I don't know if you realise this, but Sheffield Wednesday had a points deduction, and it should have. A lot of people think it should have happened last season, and Charlton were the club that had a vested interest in this because they got relegated in the final position in place of Sheffield Wednesday, and it went to court, and obviously it got dismissed and all the rest of it. But you know, a lot of people believe that the offence that Sheffield Wednesday got the points deduction for that kicked in at the beginning of this season, the offence actually took place during the course of last season. So it was, you know, well, surely it should have kicked in the season that the offence took place, but the EFL made the decision that they were going to kick it in this season, and obviously Sheffield Wednesday went down over the weekend. So, but that doesn't help Charlton Athletic. Charlton Athletic are still a League One club. So, and who knows if they'd have.
Go on. No, go on.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, obviously it's, you know, Charlton Athletic is a club that's fairly local to us, Duke, and you know, who knows? I mean, if they'd have had the 10-point deduction last season, they might still be a championship club. Maybe they'd have even got into a playoff. Who knows? Who knows?
Do you not think then that obviously I'll ask you quickly before I move on to the other guys. When was that punishment meted out? Was it meted out after the season had finished, or was it kind of thrown in, you know, in that kind of weird 2 weeks after the season finishes where it's not really over? So it was after the season had finished, the playoffs have been done.
Yeah,
it's just the offence
although it was
done
in the melting pot beforehand.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but because
the end of the season and.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from, but because the punishment was meted out post-season, if you will, that's more the way I'm looking at it. That's probably why it's been put over to the following season. If they decide to point deduct Derby now, what you're looking at is you're still looking at the playoffs. So it's still considered this season. So if they dock points, we could very well see Derby going down. Before the playoffs are over, and before the season is actually is all tied up and with a put on top with a bow. Cal, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just one of those ones. I'm not saying that the clubs shouldn't be punished. I just think it should be equal punishment for all clubs. It shouldn't involve financial gain. It shouldn't involve anything like that. Derby are a historic club. They'd be a huge club, sort of traditionally, especially in around the Midlands and around there, working sort of class areas. And they used to be a very big team, and they've had some great managers and they've had some great players. But as a lot of the money went to other teams and super clubs, even you could say, were created, teams like Derby and there's lots of them have fallen down. Even Birmingham and all them sort of the Sheffield Wednesday, they've fallen down, and Forest, all them. So it should just be. I think it should be equal. I don't think the size of the club should matter. I don't think how much money they bring in should matter. If Derby are getting punished, if Sheffield Wednesday have been punished, if all the clubs that have been punished, I think every club should be.
Yeah, exactly like you said. If they're trying to get a financial leg up in any way, shape, or form, regardless of how they do it, like you said there, the Derby sold their ground to their owner. So essentially, he sold the ground to himself. Therefore, that money can go straight back into Derby County Football Club rather than him giving Derby County the football club. So no matter what happens there, he's given his club a financial leg up in the same way that the Wigan owner declared bankruptcy and put the club into administration to wipe their debts. It's the financial leg up. In the same way that as foes called them, the pig sticks. They've looked at they want to go create their own Super League, £300 million, give themselves a massive financial leg up. It's no different than what Derby have done or Wigan have done or the owners of Derby and Wigan have done. Let me rephrase that. So therefore, if they're getting points deductions for exactly that, then surely, Jazz, the Big Six should be on the receiving end of the same punishment, should they not?
Yeah, it's just a different rule for different clubs, as you know. Interesting, I was having to think about, does anyone remember like when Man City, at the beginning of the season, they were odds on not to enter the Champions League. They were going to get kicked out, weren't they, if you remember, until that kind of legal case. And I think Chelsea had issues with the transfer.
wasn't it?
Yeah, so that's quite ironic, isn't it? And they're set to win it. And Chelsea obviously had a, half a window ban, and then they were going to go on, and they appealed it and won. I think it just should be... obviously, just follow the rules and have the same rules for all the teams and all the clubs, I think. And it doesn't help that it keeps going on, and now there's an independent inquiry going on. So obviously it's in Derby's benefit for this to go on and on and on. And they are in financial trouble. I mean, they don't even want a financial fine, apparently. They can't afford to pay anything. Yeah, it's just a fan suffer at the end of the day, isn't it? Obviously, we were in the past involved in the Tevez affair, and hands up, I felt we should have had a points deduction. That's my feeling. I don't know how the hell we kind of got away with that, really. But, I mean, if someone knows that story is something to do with Duxbury fiddling some paperwork to show to the Premier League to say that we've altered the contract now, which means if Tevez gets sold in the summer, then we'll get all the money for it or something. And that document was a false document, so we could have been in even more trouble, I think. But that kind of got
thing is, you probably find, Jazz, probably the reason why the Premier League did nothing is that probably everybody looked at us at that point and thought, well, they're relegated anyway, so really, what's the point of a points deduction? And then we went on this magnificent run, winning 7 out of the last 9, got ourselves literally out of the coffin as it's about to be put 6 foot under. And the Premier League at that point are like, right, this makes us look a little bit silly.
yeah. And I don't think that kind of thing never happened before with South American contracts being that complicated. I think, like whatever you said, it should be just consistency, I think, should be the key amongst, doesn't matter if you're from the 3rd division or Premiership, you should be dealt the same, but we know that's not the case. And I think, Duke, there's a comment about 15 million fine for the Super League. Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the problem is, though, boys, is that it's not just one club in isolation. If it was Man City on their own or Liverpool on their own or, one of the Big Six on their own, because they've all sort of clubbed together en masse, that's the problem for me. It's like a strength in numbers sort of thing. It's like, how can the Premier League punish the Big Six as far as whichever way you look at it, they are the Big Six in a financial sense. I know Arsenal and Tottenham, maybe not so much in recent times as far as winning trophies are concerned, but certainly in terms of what they bring in terms of viewership worldwide to the Premier League as a product, they are, whether you like it or not. And that's kind of the problem, isn't it? Because all 6 of them have got to be punished. How on earth are the Premier League going to punish them the way that they really ought to, which is, points deductions and all the rest of it? They're not going to, because they're literally shooting the goose that lays the golden egg. If you was to kick all 6 of them out, if you was to relegate them, which is probably morally what should have happened, as far as the rule L9 being broken was concerned, let's put it like this: if it was 6 clubs, if it was West Ham, if it was Aston Villa, if it was Everton, if it was Fulham, etc., there'd be no argument. We'd be kicked out, and we all know it. Yeah, because it's those 6, they wield too much power, and the Premier League can't punish them.
Well, there's a story that the Real Madrid guy and Barcelona and one of the Italian clubs, they want to sue the other 9 who didn't go ahead with it, to say we've signed contracts with you. So that's getting even more messy and messier, really, to see where we end up. Yeah.
But that was always going to be the way, wasn't it? As far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure. I saw something at the weekend, and I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to tell me if there's anything else come of this. But did Juventus were told at the weekend by the Italian FA that if they did not officially renounce their decision to join this Super League, if they didn't publicly back out, that they would be kicked out of the Italian league. Has there been anything more said on that? Do we know if Juventus have now officially backed out, or what's coming from that?
I just seen the rumors. I seen that, but as big as Juventus have been in recent history, Juventus wouldn't be the biggest club in Italy. So it's kind of like they might have a lot of money through stuff and being the best team in the last maybe 10 years, but the Milans and even Roma and Lazio are huge clubs as well. There is more to it in Italy, but they haven't been afraid to kick them out before. I think if they don't renounce it, if that is true, you can see it happening.
Well, they did relegate them, didn't they, at one point for the
4 divisions or something.
for the match fixing, teeth back in match fixing. So they have been known to throw the book, and then the Italian FA are not frightened to throw the book at their.
But there was a lot less money in the game back then as well.
Yeah. Steve, your thoughts on this whole financial fee, the fair play, as Jazz mentioned earlier. I think City at the start of the season, in the grand scheme of things, from what I remember, Steve, it was the equivalent of being 50 quid over in your overdraft is roughly what Man City have kind of overspent with regards to their financial fair play. And if I'm right in saying this, and the others here might back me up on this, West Ham were one of the few clubs one of the very few clubs, I believe, that supported Man City in their appeal against being banned from European football. Are you in agreement with the rest of the boys here that we should there should be a blanket anything on financial fair play, be it the Football League, be it the Premier League, be it at any kind of level of football? Surely it's got to be a points deduction, Steve, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the first times I came on the stream was I texted Gatesy when the Super League thing came off and said, can I come on and talk about this with you? And at the time, I said, can you guys still hear me? Because I've just lost all your pictures.
I can hear you still.
No, I can hear you. Gatesy's just
We
put
can
something
still
up,
hear
I
you.
think.
Yeah, at the time, I said you should drive them into the ground, and I'm still of that opinion. Derby is an easy target, isn't it? And it is just morally wrong that Derby should suffer for what is effectively a much smaller crime than trying to destroy the entire football pyramid. I am sick. You see, the EFL and the Premier League are two different entities, but I am sick of Premier League being toothless.
Yeah.
If in the Big Six, no consequence really. If it was a £15 million fine for each of them, well, that'll hurt Spurs.
It's not each. I don't think it's each. That's why I'm surprised. So I've just checked on Google or sort of BBC website. It's combined 15 million from all of them.
Well, I'm sorry, that's small change for them, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking they haven't got the guts to fine them 15 million each. No way.
But the other thing is, I've heard that UEFA have said they'll lose something like 5% of their money for in European competitions for this. What? It's just wrong. But yet Derby County, and I'm old enough to remember Derby winning the league under Cloughy, and what a team he had there, to be fair. But I just cannot accept that this is okay. I cannot accept what we've done to those 6 teams is okay. And I cannot accept that if we take points off Derby, but that's all we give to the Premier League guys, that's okay. It's got to be one fits all. It's all you can do with it. And it just shows me that the Premier League are in fact completely toothless and largely powerless because they are too scared to lose their revenue stream. And actually, surely this is sport. Okay, yeah, we want to make a few quid, but it can't all be about money all of the time. Because when do you lose sport and when does it become just a financial consideration like the Super League tried to make it? No, I can't wear what's happened to them at all. And our six in the Premier League, and I personally would have quite happily relegated them all into non-league and see where that took us.
Yeah, I just don't get it. And going back to Fo's comment there, £15 million, even if it's £15 million each, right? You're talking, what are you talking then? £90 million tops, all right? That's going to be apparently shared out to the Football League. Now, you break that down, 72 clubs, it's £1 million each. The grand scheme of things, that's going to be okay for those at the lower end of that pyramid, if you will. You know, you're going all the way down to, you know, your teams in the bottom end of League Two. That £1 million is going to come in handy for, you know, for running costs and everything else. But what's £1 million really going to do to, you know, your teams like, I don't know, just for instance, your mid-table clubs, your Millwalls and things like that. What's that going to help with your running costs or anything, you know, elsewhere down the line? That, for me, that's just a bit more of a slap in the face to these teams in the in this football pyramid. You know, I just don't see and again, what's £15 million to Manchester City in a fine? They pay that in wages to probably one player, you know. So it's frustrating. It's annoying. I just don't see. It's not a punishment. It's not a punishment in the slightest.
Try getting that out of Daniel Levy, mate. No chance.
And yet, when clubs like Bury transgress,
yeah,
and all the rest of it, I mean, you know, they can't wait to come down on them, and expel them or relegate them or put them out of business. You know what I mean? But it's because it's these sort of like financial juggernauts. They're sort of like, oh, you know, we'll call it a £15 million fine. Well, that's not a punishment. It really isn't. You know, they can afford 15 million quid. That's probably, you know, they've probably got 15 million quid stuffed down the back of the sofa.
So they probably use that to light the fire at the training ground.
Yeah. Oh, there's a spare 15 million quid. There you go. Not a problem. Absolutely
embarrassing. It really is. It's embarrassing. It's frustrating as well because, you know, again, when we bring this full circle back to West Ham and obviously what we talk about, how can we compete with that kind of shit? You know, in the grand scheme of things, against what you, as you classed them, Gatesy just said, financial juggernauts. These guys are, if left unchecked, in that sense of the word, are only going to get bigger and bigger, more powerful.
But they have been left unchecked.
But that's what I mean. Now we've allowed it to happen. Yeah, but if we continue to happen, these guys are going to be. Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
I'm not being funny, but the moment you're allowing a Russian oligarch who has, you know, alleged connections to the Russian mafia, whether he does or doesn't, I don't know. It's like I say, alleged. You've got the Abu Dhabi royal family. You've got American hedge fund investors and this, that, and the other. You know, coming in and just sort of like taking over established English clubs with great histories, with great traditions, and Tottenham Hotspur. You know, sorry, I had to get that in. But no, seriously, you know, this has been an attack. This has been a Trojan, and I said it before. This has been a Trojan horse attack on the English game, going on, hidden in plain sight, right under our noses, and all of the clubs that have, you know, and the fans all jumping up and down and protesting about it, and that's fine. But they were quite happy when these chairmen were giving managers tens of millions of pounds to go out and buy the best players in the world. I mean, you know, they're quite happy to sort of like let financial doping go on in the world of Premier League football all the time it suits them. But when it rebounds and it sort of like it bites them on the arse, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we're not too sure if we like this.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, there's a word that's been lost in sport, in quite a lot of sports actually. There's a few that still hold on to it, but that's integrity. Integrity of the sport. And with those 6 clubs, the sport, the Premier League have shown no integrity. So how can you trust them going forward? Because if something like this happens again, what are they can do? Oh, you're very naughty. Yeah, give us another 15 million quid. It's all done. You know, it's just. I'm sorry, but there needs to be.
They've set a precedence, haven't they?
Yeah, there needs to be some moral checks and balances. That if any of us are caught speeding, right, the whole population, you get a fine. Okay, and that's just true for everyone. Surely you've got to have the same sort of thing in football. These are the rules.
But here's the problem, Steve. You've just hit the nail on the head. You're talking about morals in football, in top level football, not grassroots football. There's no morals in top level football, I'm afraid. They went essentially when the Premier League came into being in 1992.
Yeah.
It's all about money.
Which we'll be covering soon, won't we, Gatesy? That season.
We are.
There's no
Thursday, I believe,
morals in the
Gatesy.
games, and there hasn't been for nearly 30 years, and that's the truth.
Yeah, but you could get it back, Gatesy, but to get it back, people aren't prepared to do what is needed because they are frightened that their very nice lifestyles and flying all around the world for football and all the money that's coming in, they'll lose all that. It goes back to what we said when the 6 clubs tried to break away, greed. And that's not just greed on behalf of the clubs, it's greed on behalf of the people who run them and who run the league and who run the system. If you've made making money your goal over the sport, then you're always going to end up here. If you've got enough guts, you can turn it round. But it's not going to be pretty to do. But I think what you're left with at the end is better than what you've got now. It's just my opinion.
I think, like Gatesy said, it's a national treasure. So I believe the government will step in. I think they could do things like they'll cancel the visas of all the footballers who are British citizens. So if they want to go and play in Italy, they can't do it. So I think it won't happen. I think it's a wake-up call for everyone, and they'll rewrite the rules wherever they need to. And once the government step in, there's not much these rebels and bandits can do anyway.
Yeah, that's true enough.
I love that phrase there, Jazz. These rebels and bandits. I'm on side with calling the big 6 exactly that from now on. They're a bunch of bandits. I like it. We're going to stick to that. Gatesy. No, sorry, Cal. Before we move on, Cal, your thoughts on that? Because everyone else has had their bit. Let's have your bit.
Which part's that on? Just the big 6 greed and all?
Yeah, the big 6, the way that they've got away with it, really, it really does seem like it.
Oh, they've gotten away with it. Unfortunately, we all sort of expected that to happen. That we knew that there's no integrity, that no one had the balls to sort of stand up to them, and sort of it's all a David and Goliath sort of thing. And the unfortunate thing is, I know that David won, but they're all the Goliaths in this situation, and I can't see David winning this one. It's just sort of shite, and it's going to happen again. It's not a one-time thing. It's going to happen again sooner or later, and they'll need to learn from it. And it's just a shambles. And I think everyone else has said everything that's to be said, really.
Yeah, I think for me the sad part of all of it is that they've got the control. They've got the control. Nothing is going to happen to these guys. These guys are essentially untouchable now, and
They're parasites of the game.
It won't be long, but yeah, they are Gatesy, and it won't be long before they actually manage to create a breakaway. as the sixth of them, because I don't think the rest of the Premier League are going to take too lightly to it. I think that I think from the vote that was taken by the Premier League, was it on the Tuesday after it was announced that there should be some sort of unilateral punishment. I think the other teams there were sick and tired of it as well, of the kind of power that those six have got. So listen, we haven't heard the last of it. I think this is going to rumble on for some time. Not just the grumbles around the punishment, but the idea of a formation of the Super League. Mr. Gates.
Yes, Mr. Stribbs.
If you would, sir, it's all with you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of the show, and this is my usual shout out to young Isla Kate. And I've been putting messages in the chat here and there, little links and little appeals. This is what it's all about. She's a 6-year-old girl, and she is suffering with neuroblastoma, which is a cancer that's threatening her very life. So in the middle of a global pandemic, her family have got to take her across the world to save her life because there ain't no treatment in the NHS in this country. So we at Falls from Iron and the wider West Ham YouTube community are after some help, guys, for this family. You've got a PayPal link, which I've just put in the live chat. It's also in the description below the YouTube video, as well as a Just Giving one as well. And we would urge you, if you have got any funds that you can put into this particular pot to help this family out, they've got to pay for treatment, flights, accommodation, living costs. All the bills are still coming in the UK, so they need our help. So anything you can put in there, £1 upwards, the more the merrier. And whether you can, whether you can't, do us a favour, take whatever the message is, which is, as I say, it's in the description below the YouTube stream, below the YouTube video. Copy it, paste it to your social media, send it out on WhatsApp, friends, family, work colleagues, everybody, complete strangers, whatever. This is a race against time, ladies and gentlemen. This girl, I don't mean to be. Well, no, I am going to be melodramatic because I need to focus your minds. This little girl's dying. It's real simple. She's 6 years of age, and she is going to die if she doesn't get the treatment. That's the reality. So we need to try and get this done. So please, if you've got anything you can put in the pot, help us out. Thanks for listening.
Gatesy, every time you do it, I get goosebumps, I get chills. What you say comes from the heart, and I know your history and everything else based around this bastard disease, So, as I say, that's your bit. I could never do it justice the way you do. So, guys, listen, we're coming to the end of the show. As always, we end on that. What we'll say is thank you to everyone that's been in the chat. Thank you to everyone that's mentioned. Give us some feedback. Scott, always, regardless of your absolute love affair with a certain player that we're not mentioning. It's been a great pleasure tonight, guys. Cal, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's always good.
Listen, I love having you on. In fact, all you guys that are here tonight, yourself, Steve, thank you for coming on as well, buddy.
Absolute pleasure, Duke. Anytime, mate.
And once we can do it again, we'll get people back down the pub. And Cal, you're more than welcome if you can, find a fishing trawler.
I have my vaccine in 10 days. Vaccine in 10 days, Duke.
Hey.
I'll be on my way.
Good stuff. And Jazz, as always, you're fantastic. I love it. You've got so much knowledge about West Ham, and you talk really well about the club and everything else. I love having you on, buddy.
No problem, mate. Pleasure.
And Gatesy, what year are we doing this year? 91, 92, is it?
1992, 1993.
Oh,
season.
92, 93. Shit, I've gone back in time.
When is it, Gatesy? When is it?
Thursday
night.
Thursday, no problem. Okay.
Marcus put there, looking forward to 1992, 93 on Thursday. Trying to help jog some memories. There was a hangover from the previous season, and many fans were not ready to back the team or the club. Yeah, I can agree with that.
I think
Again,
that was
as
largely
a
to do with the bond scheme, wasn't it?
it was, yeah, the bond scheme that came was it November of '91 that came out. So yeah, but we'll touch more on that next on Thursday on the next Hammer Time. Gatesy, you've got one tomorrow, don't you?
Yep, Hammer Shocks, 8 o'clock tomorrow at West Ham Online will be joining me. And if you're around, obviously, Duke, if you can sort of get a little
I'll
bit
do
of
my best.
time away from the bar, then obviously you'll be with us as well. And we're
Oh,
just
it's a
going
good
to be chatting about various things that come through to us on social media. We're going to try and get as many opinions that we think might create a little bit of discussion, debate, some of the more unpopular, off the wall, wacky thoughts that people have. If anybody's watching that has anything that they would like to float as an idea that we might want to discuss, I won't be late, matey. Don't worry about that. My watch works. Then you've got the scrolling ticker at the bottom with all of our social media platforms. Send us a message if you want. If there's anything that you think fits that bill, something that might be quite polarizing, and just getting a little bit of an argument going. Not an argument, but a discussion.
Yeah, we don't want any more arguments, Casey.
No. And then let us know.
No, I'm sure, as always, Casey, it will be a great show. I've got to say, I've gone back and watched the previous ones, and there are certainly some statements in there that do live up to the title of the show. So yeah, boys, thank you all for coming on. It's been a pleasure. It's been a great show. I've really enjoyed the subjects we've spoken about. Listen to me. It's been great fun, boys. Thank you very much. I'm going to sign us out. Seeing as he's not here, I'll take Andy. We are fucking massive. And Gatesy, one thing left to say.
Come on, you Irons!
Fuck's sake. What is wrong with you, man? Honestly, we need to get you some sort of help. I really do think so.
I think he's being very, very silly, Mr. Dookie.
What happens
Good
when
night,
you're a Tottenham fan?
Take care, chaps. Good night.
Bye.
See you.